Okay, this is Boomward here on DreamHack Summer Day 1 with the Team Liquid DotA 2 Captain Liquid FLUFF. How did the games go today? And yeah, tell us how you feel.
Overall, today was really good. We felt that the game 1 was the toughest game of all. Not really tough, but mentally and spiritually, our team wasn't really on track. We didn't know how to team fight correctly. We didn't really walk it through. I think it was just because it was our first game of the day on LAN. I know that it was kind of loud, but we overcame that. The rest of the games, we were much more composed and much more controlled, so they went a lot better in our favor.
So when you mentioned that where you were unused to it being on LAN, that seems to be a rumor that's kind of plaguing you, as they're this terrific team, but they just fail at LAN, and like that's the biggest weakness. If they could succeed at LAN, they'd be the best team in the world. Like, what do you feel like is actually putting you off on LAN compared to sitting at home in your own environment?
Actually, it's the noise. To be honest, I think we all prefer to be on the stage because it's actually easier to play in a booth or in a controlled area. But here at DreamHack, it's easy for people, passerby, to just come by and speak their mind behind you. And sometimes, if there's a good play, they cheer, but you need to communicate with your teammates. So I actually prefer the controlled environment. But it's okay. It was just the first game. It was a little bit.
The rumor, or rather, the saying that you're bad at LAN kind of harrows back to your days on Complexity, where it was quite similar to Liquid as of 2013, because you just went through this string of online tournaments and you were just really dominant and you had team fights. And I believe you even mentioned in your blog that after winning the Defense 2, you felt like, well, top 3 at the International, it won't be that hard. Like, it's an achievable goal. But like, looking back at it now, and even then in a controlled setting like the International, was it the competition that was simply too hard for you and you underestimated it, or do you feel like it actually was the condition of, oh shit, we're on LAN, people are going to watch and all that kind of stuff?
Actually, the LAN factor never really played that much into our team success or failure. I know that back in Complexity, Hannah had some issues with us yelling too loud at each other because we had to in the booth in order to hear each other. The main problem as far as TI2 goes was that we were practiced on Mumble using a VoIP, but we found that on LAN the DotA TV, or not DotA TV, the in-game DotA voice chat was delayed, so we could actually hear each other doubly. We took that off our list. We also tried different programs, but they weren't. Valve decided not to allow us to use programs because they didn't want cheating, of course, and they couldn't monitor that. So what we had to do is we actually had to put the headsets around our neck, put the volume on max so we could hear the in-game sound, and also yell across the room to each other. And we weren't prepared for that, so that was part of the issue we had there. But other than that, there's not really any pressure. No one's really phased out by the audience or the crowd or the cheering or anything. It's actually makes it easier to play when people give you the momentum you need by cheering.
Okay then, like, do you ever, because once again I read another quote on your blog where you mentioned that playing with heroes that you're uncomfortable with is obligatory to make yourself a better player, because it puts you in a situation you're not comfortable with, and then learning to master it eventually makes you a more comfortable player. Do you ever like coach your team through that kind of exercise, like playing with certain handicap, so to speak, or something like that? And because today when I watched your games, you didn't seem to be shouting or anything. I couldn't hear much conversation between you, but that could have been the room being loud. So like, do you put any kind of extra strain on the team being able to perform well in unusual circumstances at all?
Well, in G1, one of the most important lessons that we learned from being in a LAN setting was not to get too excited, not to overstep your boundaries. We made sure that this time we toned it down a lot. We can remain calm and composed. We do enjoy the victories, but we don't want to get too excited over a team fight or something like that, or some small advantage, and throw it all away. So we try to keep our composure. At G1, if you were actually there, or maybe if they showed the cameras inside the booth when we beat some teams, Bobo was actually screaming really loudly. One time he even let go of his keyboard and mouse, and he died. So we're not doing that again. We actually talked to him about that. Boba talked to us and he said, guys, I got too excited. I'm going to tone it down. And we said we all agree that's the best way to play the game right now.
That's actually pretty interesting, because this is just an offshoot thought. But if you compare then what you're saying right now to, say, a team like evil geniuses. Like every time I've seen them play, it's constant shouting, and of course the EG throw is famous just for that kind of a thing. Do you feel like that? Do you feel like that plays into your favor when you play them? Like, do you aim for specific plays such as, oh, I killed Mike. Shit, this game is won. And then you simply pounce on that opportunity. Like, it looks bad for them, but you simply take the opportunity and bait them into something.
We actually haven't thought that too far ahead, but we know that when Korok used to be on Quantic and we were Complexity, whenever we played them, Korok would always focus Mike, no matter what, always ganking Mike. He actually made it his mission. So what we did was we had a strategy against Korok called the Korok strategy, where basically as soon as Korok appeared on the map, everyone would focus him because we knew he's the problem player and he's always going to focus Mike. So it was actually working in our favor in that circumstance. But right now versus EG or something like that, no.
Okay then. So as you already mentioned G1 League, and you managed taking one game in the entire tournament overall. Tell me, do you think that you could have done better if the setting had been more like a BO3 stage against all the teams? Do you think that the best of one was kind of detrimental to you overall as a team, since you said that you needed more time to get warmed up even today with the first rough game?
Right. I think we would have done. I think we could have done better in the best of 3 and in the best of 1. We felt that the games that we lost early on were very close, or we threw our advantage away, which is true to some extent. We couldn't hold on to it. The only game that was really, really shaky for us was the LGD game, but aside from that, we felt like all the games were winnable. We felt like all the teams were, in our grasp, where we were able to overcome them if we had practiced a little bit more. It was a little bit rushed before we went to G1. We didn't have enough time to properly practice, and it showed because, even though we had this early game advantage, we always seemed to lose it or get outplayed or something like that.
Did participating then saying, now even you said that you feel like you saw weaknesses in their play as well as yours, do you think that gives you more hope for TI3 than in general, given that people in general have the opinion that China everything,
Yeah. One of the bigger lessons that I learned last year on Complexity was that the Chinese teams aren't gods, so to speak. People always put them on a different tier. The reason why they're so good is because they're consistent. They practice the same things over and over and over and over, and they drill it in. And they also have a streamlined scrim process where, basically all the Chinese teams come on at one single time and they play, and they have a lunch break and they play. The European scene and the American scene, practice is really, really random. We can do things like, message Navi and say, do you want to play tomorrow, best of 3 or best of 5? And we can set things up like that, but, sometimes we don't get the most efficient practice possible. But definitely, I understand that all these players are human. We've seen when we beat IG or when IG lost on stage, you could see Chuan yelling at Ferrari, you could see the inner turmoil. You definitely see the weakness in these players now, and G1 was another recent compounding on that fact.
Okay then. Well, I don't really have much more to ask, so any final shout-outs?
Shout out to my friends, my family. Shout out to my team. Really good day 1. Shout out to my girlfriend Kat. Shout out to Team Liquid. Shout out to Shiny Things, Twitch TV, Razer, and Barracuda.